Welcome back, guys, to yet another World of Warcraft video for the War Within. Today we are going to be going over a couple different options for Alchemy alt army builds when it comes to professions, and hopefully this will give you a clear idea of what you can actually do and the couple different options that we have. The minimum that I'm going to do is I will show you guys how to get the build started, and then I'll give a couple ideas for how you can actually progress once you get more knowledge points, once you get higher skill points and everything like that, so you have an idea of where to take it into the future. But before we do get into it, make sure that you guys drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on, because if you ding dong the notification bell, that helps out the channel greatly, but it also makes it so you do not miss any future videos, or at least there's less of a chance that that happens. But either way, I appreciate that very much, and make sure that you also check out the links to Gold Cap down in the description below, because there's some interesting stuff over there, some good gold guides, some interesting, a good community, and also, if you do decide to become a part of it, make sure to use Sansful as your code for 10% off. But that's it. Let's get straight into the video. So what we're talking about first is we're going to be talking about how to get Blastomites. Now, Blastomites is one of the things that are going to be super popular, right? This is the new diamond, and this is one of the main crafting materials that's needed for unique gems, unique purple gems, and jewel crafting. Absolutely everybody that's taking the game somewhat seriously are going to be wanting these. Now, considering that this technically has no cooldown, you can, in a sense, eventually with this build, permanently, well, at least shuffle into these Gleaming Transmutation, and that will let you infinitely make these. But if you do mass produce these, they will be much more expensive, and I'll talk about why that is right now. So the first thing that you're going to do, because I already started on it a little bit here, you will be able to find that Thaumaturgy here in the profession tree. We want to get to this point right over here. Performing acts of Thaumaturgy now grant Gleaming Transmutation. This is going to be, well, the fastest and easiest way to get this. It will also be a lot more expensive, but to show you guys, if we go over here and we take any of these materials that we have and we click Transmute, you'll be able to see that the rewards that we're going to get, and boom, you'll see that we get 3 of these. Now, in total, as you saw right here, this will require 80. And this number does not change no matter how far you go into the profession. You will only get 3 of these for a mass production. But, and here's the kicker, once you get to this point, which is 55 points in, you'll see your first act of Thaumaturgy each day yields a significant amount of extra transmutation. So what that means, if we go ahead and do this, put 55 points into here, and I know this is quite a lot of points, but hear me out for a second. When I go over here and I do this one more time, it might be a little messed up just because I already did one and, you know, we get the point after. But as you can see right there, we get 25. That's the increased bonus. So you'll see here, if I do one more today, and this is a daily reset, right? Then I'm back to 3. So what that means is over the time span of 4 days, you could kind of expect to be able to make 1 of these Blastomites. And the reason why that's good is because you can, as you can see, if I wanted to mass produce this, then I would have to do, well, however many it is. It's let me just quickly do this here. It's about 26 or 20. It's actually 27 to get over, but then every couple of crafts it'd be a little cheaper. But considering it's 26 times 20, it's like over 500 materials to actually get to that point. You do get a little bit, as you can see, you get some other materials back, so you do recuperate some of the price that it takes to get these, but mass producing these will be way more expensive compared to actually making one every 4 days. So that is build option number 1. But here's the thing, right? It takes 55 points to get to the area or location of where you want to be when it comes to being able to do that, right? Because you want 55 points into this, so each day you'll get a much higher amount of these, and then you also actually need to be able to make them and you need another 20 points for that. So that's a total of 75 knowledge points. Now, early on, you have access to 24 knowledge points from one-time treasures, and then you have the option of getting first-time crafts. The only issue with that is in the profession, it's kind of rough because you have to do experimentations, and there's limitations and some time gating if you're doing meticulous ones. You can get what are they called? You can start to craft eventually formulated courage that can make you do wild experimentations a little longer, but it might get very expensive to get your profession up to a point where you have 75 knowledge points early on. So I would say that for all intents and purposes, you could probably expect to get to around 50 or 60. So getting the required 20 points to actually start crafting the Blastomites either will be, one, very expensive for your alts, or two, you're just going to have to wait for a couple weekly rotations or bi-weekly rotations to get a couple more knowledge points to actually get here. But when you are here at 75 points, then this is the perfect setup for you, because you'll be able to make the Blastomites. And here's the thing. If this has too much competition, even though it is kind of time-gated in the cheapest possible way of making these, you also have the option of making these, which are Gleaming Chaos. Now, just to show you guys, you can actually turn 40 of these Gleaming materials into, as you can see, regular materials. And there's, unfortunately, this is only going to be rank 1, and this doesn't matter for however far you get into in the profession. This will always be rank 1 materials, but it's still a bonus if you do, even if you just go over here and you say, okay, well, I'm just going to do rank 2 or rank 1 materials, then you're eventually going to shuffle into having these, and then that just turns into more 3 materials, right? Or as a bonus to what you invested into it. So that's number 1. The other part of it is you want to get access to the other transmutations. So here's the thing. If you do not want to go for the Blasphemite route, you want to go for the other transmutations, or transmutations. I know there's a lot of different words for all of that. And as you can see right here, you may now discover ominous transmutations by performing Thaumaturgy on ominous transmutation. I hate all these words and they're absolutely terrible. But in this case, what I would recommend is you actually don't, like at this point, you could also say, okay, well, maybe the first act of Thaumaturgy, that point isn't really that important anymore. So you could say, okay, well, instead, I'm just going to put 35 points into Thaumaturgy, and then I'll be putting 25 points into ominous materials, or volatile materials, or mercurial materials. And the reason why you want to do each of these is because they all unlock different parts of the profession for transmutations, right? And each of these will actually give very different materials, which is something that's pretty important to think about. So I will just go ahead, now that we've actually unlocked these, just to show you guys, you'll be able to turn some of your other materials that you are doing Thaumaturgy for, you'll be able to turn that into even more materials that are time gated. So as we just saw, now we got the ominous herbs one. And this one, you'll be able to see that we need ominous transmutation and we need the volatile transmutation, which is fine because you can see just doing that alone, we actually got some mercurial, we got some volatile. And again, each of these different materials will be able to turn into more of the other. So you'll have to, you know, shuffle through some materials, obviously. I'll actually link another content creator, Drizzling Rose, made a Miro board that shows what certain materials turn into other materials, both when it comes to transmutes, but also when it's Thaumaturgy related. So if you're interested in that, that'll also be in the pinned comments down below. But just to show you guys, when we have these byproduct things, we can actually use this particular transmutation, and boom, we make ourselves some more of these other ones, but we also make some microbloom. And then another way you can see this is you also get access to a higher amount of gleaming transmutation. Here's the thing, right? This amount is pretty high, but this is time gated. So you're limited to however many charges that you have here. And eventually when we get many, many months in and people get to a point where, okay, well, I have everything unlocked in this particular tree, I'll have access to a multitude of different transmutations. It'll be completely fine, right? This particular tree in transmutation, I messed these words up, but you're just gonna have to deal with it. That's why I'm showing you all these. This will increase how many charges and how quickly they recharge, but just something to keep in mind is that every single one of these transmutations, they all share the same cooldown. So you're going to have to pick and choose even when you actually have all of them learned, which is why in this case, I would probably say that having, well, if you want to cover all 4 sections, right? You want to do Blasphemites, you want to do the different kinds of transmutes, then you need at least 4 different characters. And because of all these materials being soulbound, you can't buy these materials, right? You're gonna have to take regular materials, put it through the shuffling system in the profession, and then eventually you're gonna have enough, right? So there's gonna be a lot of math involved, but because of all these daily crafting cooldowns, there is going to be even more limitations on top of it. Now, the other part on every single one of your characters is that whenever you're doing this, you can see right here that there's a certain amount of skill and you can use concentration on it. And the reason why that's important is if I take these, right? These Blessing Blossom here. If I go ahead and craft this, then chances are these are just going to turn into more rank 1 materials. But if I was to use concentration on this and go ahead and click transmute, I'll be able to turn these particular rank 1 materials into some, not a full conversion, but some extra materials that are actually the higher rank, right? The one that we actually got up to. Now, you can also do this if you're doing rank 2 materials. Eventually, if I have some profession gear and all of that, then I'll be able to take it all the way to rank 3. Just to show you guys here, right? Using rank 3 to make more rank 3 is just if there's a math difference, then that's important. Obviously, a lot of these systems require a way deeper explanation, but I hope that my explanation of these different potential builds for alt armies makes sense. If you guys have any questions as to what you want to go for, make sure that you drop that down in the comments below as well. I'd love to talk about it. It's going to be very interesting to see which one of these end up on top, and it'll also be very interesting to see how good Blasphemite eventually becomes. There are some more, like some other options if you want to go into something like Fantastic Flask or Potent Potions. If you want to do alt army builds using that, then that's completely fine too, right? Just to give you guys a little show, right? If we were to do it while you're doing your experimentations, you get access to a bunch of crafts, right? And obviously looking at, we're just going to look at this one. Which one is this? No, we're going to look at this one. This one is a secondary stat buff, whatever. This might be a very good one depending on best in slot lists and all that. But you'll be able to see here, right? If we use rank 3 materials all over the board with obviously 100 in alchemy here, but we could also get some more skill points from profession gear. We'll be able to click on concentration and we can actually make ourselves one of these. Now, this is important to think about, right? Because even if you're in a situation where, oh, well, I'm just focused on doing transmutes, right? That's all I'm focused on. If you don't see that much profit in using your concentration on doing Thaumaturgy, well, then you might have one of your other options here where you can potentially churn out even more profit from using your concentration on one of these crafts. And as you're leveling up your profession, getting up to 100 skill, you are doing, for example, these meticulous experimentations, you're doing these every day, right? Because these have a daily cooldown, and then there's the wild experimentations as well, but there's more undiscovered recipes and all this, right? We get another one, we get access to one more. That's the invisibility potion. A lot of Mythic Plus users are going to be using this. So just to put that into perspective, make sure that even if you're focusing on transmutes, because transmutes, they don't, like a lot of these, obviously this one has concentration for it, and you could say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and use some concentration here. But something like Blasphemite, if you're doing a Blasphemite build, there's no concentration here. So on a character like that, you can easily turn out some profit elsewhere. But again, just important to look out for. It might not be super worth it to use concentration even just on your transmutes here. But again, that is something we'll have to see based on how all the prices end up when the actual expansion launches. There will probably be future videos where I go back to explaining some of these alt army profession builds, or maybe some more polished versions once we have more info of how they actually perform. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, make sure that you drop any questions that you have down in the comments below, because I'd love to talk about it. If you watched all the way to this point in the video, make sure that you guys type what are we picking today? What should we pick? I'm just looking around. I'm gonna say sunglasses because they're laying right here. Sunglasses. Yep. Type that down in the comments below if you watched to this point. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.